One among the first, that's what some say. Among the first to perform Brecht in the U.S., and has produced dozens of shows over many, many decades. Spent time traveling and performing all over the world, including Europe, Brazil, India, and many other places. They've been in this building for about 5 years now, and it's a new home and an exciting place, and we're honored to be here with you. Thank you. So, a question to kick it off. The Living Theatre and the Weathermen, it seems, share a lot when it comes to the ultimate vision of the world that they'd like to see. But perhaps the biggest point of divergence between the groups is that the Living believed it was essential to realize the vision of their ideal society at every individual moment, whereas the Weather believed it was essential to divorce their means from their ends in order to achieve their ultimate goals. What was the closest, if ever, you and the Living Theatre came to compromising your ethics for practical purposes?
Wow.
We try very hard never to compromise. It's an interesting discussion of the difference between consensus, compromise, and agreement. And that's a struggle we'll all struggle with all our lives, I guess. But at the time of the Weathermen, we were what you could call friendly enemies with them. That is, we considered them comrades in the revolutionary struggle, and we opposed their willingness to commit violence. So we had a sort of an ongoing dispute, discussion, dialogue that on some level is still going on. I want to talk a little bit about this play. I may not be able to stay long because on top of my permanent cough, I caught a cold. Stay away from me. So I may not be able to stay this whole session, but I'd like to hear what you have to say. And I want to say essentially one thing. Over the years, we've done a lot of workshops, we've done a lot of teaching, and we've done a lot of directing. And for me, the main task of the actor is to speak truthfully, is to speak what is really important to them. Every workshop that we begin and every production that we start, we begin with the question, what's the most important thing we want to say now? What is it that stirs us up? Or in the case of a workshop, what is it that stirs you up? We learn a lot from our workshop students that way about what people find important and what they want to make theater about. And what is so exceptional, and I really mean exceptional about this play, is that one constantly had the feeling that the performers were speaking of what they really had strong feelings about. I liked especially when they broke into the autobiographical aspect to say, in this way I differ with the role I'm playing, in this way I support the role I'm playing. I think that this is an essential part of everything you're ever going to do in the theater, is you should always speak for yourself. That doesn't mean you can't play Adolf Hitler. You can. And you can say, this is what I, Judith Malina, think motivated, moved, and made Adolf Hitler what he was. And honestly can say that, I can honestly say that without being sympathetic to anything he did. On the other hand, to comprehend the character I'm playing in a positive way, and in a way that makes it, because I think that will be reflected in the audience. That if we understand what we're saying and really mean it, and really are, talk about what we're dedicated to, then I think that truthfulness will come across in the theater. And I think in this play, I saw a group of actors that were exceptionally clear about what they were saying and why they were saying it and who they were playing. And I think this is something to strive for. You can't always do that so easily in the theater, the way the theater is organized. You sometimes have to work with or for people that you're not entirely in cohesion with, and where you don't want to just be a disruptive element. That's a problem for all actors in this situation, in which we don't always act in ensembles, where we can join an ensemble that we feel is searching the same direction as we are, and we can't always do that. Sometimes we just have to be glad to get some damn job. I do that sometimes in movies, and it's painful, and in some way it's wrong. It's part of the wrong of the money system in which we're all trapped. And we're trapped in it. We are trapped. We have to make money. We have to support ourselves. And sometimes we have to work with people that we would not choose as the people we want to work with. And then we have to struggle with that. And then we have to try to work with each individual in that group to give them as much hopefulness and as much understanding of our position as we possibly can. And that means that every rehearsal is a big work job, and every rehearsal is an effort to fight the good fight all the time. It's tiring, and sometimes we're afraid we're boring, but we mustn't be. We must let our energy and our belief in what we're saying overcome the tiredness. And I think in this play, that certainly happened, and I want to congratulate every one of the actors and all the staff that's worked so hard with them together. And the fact that they were able to continue to work on this play over a long period of time, I just admire that very much. And I'm very proud to have a play like this in our theater. We rent out the theater almost always to groups that have some merit, and that we're in some way or another. But rarely have we had the opportunity to have a group playing something we can admire and learn from and lean on the way we can with this group. And I not only congratulate you, I hope you go on doing the good struggle and pushing our way through the underground or undergrowth all the time.
One more brief question, and then I'll open up for one or two questions before you go. Your performances and your everyday lifestyle are geared towards communicating your ideal utopian vision of a social order. Do you ever worry that these efforts have an accidental cathartic effect for your audiences, releasing the impulses that would otherwise get them to act in their everyday lives?
I think it's worse than that. I think sometimes we have exactly the opposite effect of what we're trying to show. But we've been trained that way from childhood on. We've been trained to be competitive, to feel rivalry for our fellow workers rather than the cooperative thing. I mean, it's the way life is. And until we make a real revolution, it's the way life will be. And so we're all working for a real turnabout in the attitude we have of who we are to one another. But we don't always succeed, of course not. If we always succeeded, the beautiful nonviolent anarchist revolution would already have taken place many years ago. But we're not successful in that sense. And we have to not be discouraged by the fact that we're not successful. And I think in this play, we saw people struggling with just that struggle. I remember the Weathermen, and I remember the Panthers, and Tom, who worked closer with both those groups, will be able to tell you a little about what his experiences were in that encounter. And I think it's an important encounter because, I mean, there are the schmucks of the world who are against us, and then there's another group of people that is both for us and against us, that we're part of and that we have to oppose on.
The things that political theater can do to bring about change and revolution.
And if I may add to that, what are the barriers to change?
I think at this point in history, and you know, we are interested to look back and learn from what has happened years ago, or months ago, or days ago. But primarily we're concerned with the present moment. What can we do? What can each of us do? And I think at this moment, where there isn't a strong, or to my knowledge, there isn't a strong revolutionary organization, each of us has to think very deeply about what can I do? What is my personal possibility? Is it organizing? Is it cleaning up the kitchen? Is it writing a book? And I think each of us has to figure that out. I remember in our, used to come down to the kitchen in the morning and say, "All right, comrade, what have you done for the revolution today?"
You're good, though.
Very good. Yeah.
Now she runs a wonderful operation in Houston for teaching people, girls in prison, and she has a foundation with a $100,000 budget, and she does great work.
So that's what she decided to do. You have to decide what you can do, and you have to keep thinking about it, and it'll keep changing, and you'll make mistakes, and you'll say, "Oh God, why did I do that?" And then reverse yourself and figure out what you can do, and meet with friends and figure out what you can do together, or what you have to do in opposition to each other. And each person right now has a very heavy burden because there is no single revolutionary force that we can adhere to. That is, as I say, or there is and I don't know about it. But we have to make our minds up, given what we know and what resources available to us. What's the best thing that you can do personally to make things better, to bring it a little closer? Talk about it a little closer. Each of us has really two paths to the revolution. One is that we have a great vision of what the world could and should be like. what we would like to eliminate, prisoners, cops, war, and what we would like to establish, new forms of organization, new forms of cohabitation. What do we want? A big vision, and the big vision is easier than the other one, which is the immediate small steps that each of us can take toward that vision. That may be a very small step, but that makes it just as valid as the great leaps. Of course, we all wish we could leap forward into revolution now. I certainly do. On the other hand, we know we're not ready and prepared to do that. And so we have to take our small steps, keeping in mind the great vision and the small steps together as both being part of our obligation and our possibility.
All right, thank you, Judith, for an awesome. Your home and your wisdom with us, for making it that much easier to get that step closer to the revolution. We'll be back many, many times as we can, so thank you so much.
You guys are doing it.